The Raiders' season just ended with a rough 34-20 loss to the Chargers. It wasn't just a bad game, it felt like a wake-up call. The Raiders also ended the season with a winless 0-6 record against their AFC West rivals. The last time they went winless in the division was back in 2006 when they finished with the worst record and had the #1 overall draft pick. Head coach Art Shell was fired after just 1 year. Now Antonio Pierce and Aidan O'Connell, these two have been in the spotlight all season, and while they've both had their moments this game, it showed exactly where they stood. O'Connell struggled. Pierce was simply outmatched by Jim Harbaugh. And against a prepared team like the Chargers, it was obvious. But this loss goes beyond just one bad performance. It raises some serious questions for the future. There is already discussion going on about the quarterback next season and its implications. If the Raiders stick with O'Connell as their guy next season, could it drive key players away? Could it be a decision that pushes someone like Maxx Crosby out the door? Let's break down what really happened, what this loss means for the offseason, and the decisions the Raiders have to make next. What's up, buddies? Welcome back. If you are new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We cover all AFC West news here on this channel. It's easier to look impressive against struggling teams. Beating teams like Jacksonville, a squad that's had its own issues, or a Saints team that's been flat out bad this year doesn't really show where the team stands competitively. This matchup against the Chargers told a different story. The second half was completely lopsided, and the turning point was Aidan's costly interception right before halftime. The Raiders were up 10-0 with a chance to extend the lead, but that turnover shifted the entire momentum in the Chargers' favor. The issue? It wasn't just a bad throw, it was a reflection of a bigger problem. Aidan lacked the mobility to avoid the mistake. There was a clear running lane in front of him, and a more mobile quarterback could have stepped up, created space, and avoided the pick. Instead, the ball gets turned over, and just like that, the momentum flipped completely. And that moment, it sums up how the season has gone. When the quarterback turns the ball over, this team struggles. The numbers speak for themselves. Aidan is now 1-8 in his career when he throws at least one interception. On a brighter note, Jakobi Meyers had himself a game. Huge shout out to him for his first ever season crossing the 1,000-yard receiving mark. 9 catches, 123 yards. He was Aidan's go-to target, getting involved early and often. I was expecting Brock Bowers to have a bigger impact, but he just never got going. He finished with 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. But let's be real, that score came during garbage time. What really stands out is the fact he had 0 catches for 0 yards in the entire first half. Did the Raiders target him? Yeah, they did. But at the same time, you have to wonder how you don't find a way to get the ball in Bowers' hands more often. Someone asked if Brock Bowers could still win Rookie of the Year. The reality, he's probably not winning it. The only way he could have made a real case was if he had a monster game today. And while he did score a touchdown, it wasn't enough. The benchmark he needed to hit was Zach Ertz's rookie record for tight end receptions, 106 catches. That's the all-time mark for a rookie tight end in NFL history. If Bowers had broken that record, the conversation might have been different. But right now, it feels like the award is going to Jaden Daniels. The Commanders made the playoffs, and Daniels put up nearly 900 rushing yards, 25 total touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. Here are Aidan's stats in this match. He finished 24 of 34 for 214 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On paper, not terrible, but watching him closely throughout the game tells a different story. There were some genuinely impressive moments, like that early touchdown throw to Jakobi Meyers in the first quarter. Great ball placement and solid execution. But then there were plenty of other throws where you're left questioning what his ceiling really is. Look, the Raiders finished the season with just 4 wins. A few weeks ago, they were in a position to compete for the #1 overall pick. And I'm not saying this because I dislike Aidan. I actually really like him. He's a hard guy not to root for. He's tough, hardworking, and easy to cheer on. But here's the reality. If the Raiders settle for Aidan as their starter moving forward, it could cost them key players like Maxx Crosby. Remember a few weeks ago when Crosby made comments? Those were not about the QB performance, but think about it. Why would elite talent stick around when the starting quarterback clearly isn't a top 20, maybe even top 25 guy? If the Raiders decide to move forward with Aidan next year, they might as well slash ticket prices in half because fans will see it for what it is. A rebuild. If a rebuild is the goal, fine. Aidan can be a solid bridge quarterback while the team transitions. But beyond that, it's clear by now. He's simply not the long-term answer. Look at what just happened with the New England Patriots today. While the Raiders were on the field, New England fired Jared Mayo. But the timing? Firing Mayo immediately after the game? That tells us things were really messy in New England. That move by the Patriots tells they've already got a coach in mind. And the guy on their radar? Mike Vrabel. Now, the Raiders might find themselves competing with New England for him. A few weeks ago, Vrabel made it clear he wants to land somewhere with a quarterback in place. The Patriots have that. The Raiders don't. Vrabel also mentioned wanting a team in a good position for success. The Patriots hold a higher draft pick and have more financial flexibility with their salary cap than the Raiders do right now. What this game really highlighted again, though, is that Aidan O'Connell has his limitations. And when you consider the upcoming draft, potential trades, and free agency, the odds of him being the starting quarterback next season feel pretty slim. Honestly, what the Patriots seem to be hoping for in Mayo is exactly what the Raiders are hoping for with Pierce, a fiery, passionate leader who can rally a locker room. But here's the thing. Not every great player or motivator is cut out to be a head coach. Being a head coach takes more than just energy and leadership. There's strategy, adjustments, and game management involved. And while both Mayo and Pierce have shown they can coach in the NFL, the question remains, are they truly head coach material long term? Antonio Pierce was just asked directly about his future with the Raiders. His response? No comment. That tells you a lot about what's coming. He was also asked if he felt he had been given enough talent to work with this season. His response was blunt. I had 53 guys and I worked with them. Nobody feels sorry for the hand you're dealt. While he didn't go into detail, his words suggested he had to work through a difficult situation, dealing with roster limitations and injuries. When asked how close the Raiders are to becoming a playoff contender, Pierce's response was vague. He mentioned a glaring need, but didn't specify what it was. However, his choice of words seemed to hint at the quarterback position as a key issue. There's a lot of work to be done in 2025. And now, with the Raiders losing and the Jets winning, they currently hold the 6th overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. That's not a terrible spot, especially considering they were sitting at 8th last week. If they had won again, they could have dropped to the 10th pick, which would have been frustrating given how tough this season was. Ending up at number 6 feels disappointing, considering how rough the year was, but it speaks to just how many struggling teams there were this season. Looking ahead, the draft situation is going to be interesting. The Titans hold the number 1 pick and clearly need a quarterback. There's a good chance they go for either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders early. The Browns have Deshaun Watson, but with his struggles, they might consider cutting their losses and drafting a quarterback too. The Giants are also desperate for a long-term answer at quarterback, so we could easily see 3 quarterbacks taken in the top 5. Teams like New England and Jacksonville probably won't go for a quarterback, especially the Patriots, but Jacksonville could be unpredictable. With a potential coaching change coming, it's unclear what direction they'll take at the position. For the Raiders sitting at the 6th pick, it's going to be tough to land a top-tier quarterback without trading up. If they stay put, they could miss out on the best options. Another wild card this offseason is the Tom Brady effect. As a minority owner, there have been reports suggesting he might have significant influence in football operations, including decisions about the quarterback situation. How much say he'll have compared to GM Tom Telesco is still unclear, but it's definitely something to watch closely. It's shaping up to be a chaotic offseason with major decisions ahead for the Raiders. And honestly, based on the signs, it feels like Antonio Pierce could be on his way out after just 1 season. It probably won't cost as much to trade up this year as it did last season, mainly because of how this draft class is shaping up at quarterback. But if the Raiders want a shot at guys like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, they'll likely need to move up to guarantee one of those picks. That said, there's still a chance one of them could slide. Their draft hype has cooled off a bit over the past 48 to 72 hours, so maybe the market shifts. Now, about Kyler Murray. There's some chatter about whether the Raiders should try to trade for him this offseason. Personally, I don't think the Cardinals are moving on from Kyler. But I'll say this. I'd take Kyler over Shedeur Sanders. I'd take Kyler over Cam Ward and quite a few other quarterbacks out there. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of Kyler. I've heard the rumors he's had issues as a teammate in the past, but he had a better year this season. If we're talking about pure talent, Kyler Murray has a ton of it. No question. So what do you think, guys? Do you think the Raiders will stay with Antonio Pierce and Aidan O'Connell?